For the most part, I really do not like and have never liked so-called reality show programming. I say so-called reality shows because, and this is not just because I went to film school, but the moment you set up cameras and the moment that you have someone running sound, the moment that footage is going to be edited in such a way that you are able to work out a story arc, say in 30 minutes or 1 hour, every single week for, say, 3 months. From that point, it's pretty much scripted. Now, there are some exceptions. I like Duck Dynasty, for instance. But even then, it's obvious that certain situations are being created. But in that sense, I really enjoy it because I feel like the actual personalities of the family, I feel like the interaction between, say, Willie and Corey and Jace, and I feel like all of that is very, very authentic. And of course, Cy has to be one of my favorite people, I guess, and that he's not a character that I've seen on screen in probably the last 10 years, Walter White notwithstanding. But I feel like we live in such a great golden age of television that I am not sad to see a slow and steady diminishing of reality show programming. I've never really been a fan of it. My greatest pet peeve is being told what to do by someone who then, in less than 10 seconds, looks at me having expected me to have completed whatever task I've been given. And I'm being extreme by saying 10 seconds, but I would say my greatest pet peeve is when you assign a task and you understand that the task has to be accomplished in a certain amount of time. And I normally work pretty fast in whatever I'm doing. And yet, within half the time that should be expected for anyone who understands the nature of the task, they expect me to have that done. My only other pet peeve would be weak leadership, what I call King Saul leadership. People who start off great and at some point they become delusional, they become derailed, they become detached from reality, and they lead a large group of people sort of down a very slippery slope. My greatest fear is or would be seeing that something needs to be done and having been intimidated out of doing it. I say this whenever it comes to any political aspirations that I would have had. There are still some persons who say they would be interested in seeing me involved in politics. Not necessarily as a candidate or seeking office, but to be involved in some way, either as an advisor or as a community activist. And in so many ways, now being married, now having my own family, I have become less interested. And many people told me that the opposite would happen. They say, Jerry, once you get a family, once you purchase a home, once you are more deeply invested into society, you are going to care even more what politicians do. I will be honest with you and say I care less. I care a lot about my own household, putting food on the table, putting groceries in the refrigerator. I care more about that at this point than anything else, just sort of scuffling, struggling, hustling, and surviving. And I have far less concern with what happens in the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate at this point. Now, that's not to say that something won't land on my doorstep in which I just have to be engaged, but at this point, I'm much more concerned with what happens in my own household.